have you right where I want you.
The 90s are alive and well in 2020, and the latest addition to this long run of terrific games that harken back to a simpler and some would say more enjoyable era in video games is Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, which is not the name of this review, by the way. I know it's taken me a little while to get this, but I'm getting hammered with all kinds of titles. I was just looking at Star Wars Squadrons a minute ago. But I have been having an incredible time with Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Checked it out on the PlayStation 4 Pro. Activision provided me the review code. Thank you, Activision. And it is a game developed by one of my favorite dev studios out there, Toys for Bob, who always entertains and always does more with the concept of the game that they're building than you would expect of them. And that's absolutely the case here with Crash Bandicoot 4 as well. I've streamed a bunch of this already, so thank you to all of those that joined me on my lengthy streams. I streamed the demo when that was released, and I've streamed a bunch of this finished game as well. And I've had a giant smile on my face playing the game, but I've also been, cursing under my breath. Oh, I thought I was going to outjump it. Oh, my God. Cursing a lot like Crash Bandicoot. Lots of that kind of thing. Crash doesn't speak, but he's surrounded by fuzzy, furry characters and nefarious evildoers that do speak. All of the voice work is great in this. All of the production value in the cutscenes, is cinema quality stuff. It's really, really wonderful. But the meat and potatoes of this game is the tight gameplay, the challenging gameplay, and the imagination that exists level to level, or as in this case, dimension to dimension. Because you know how we've always gone in these action platformer games from, one themed level to another? There's actually a little bit of logic to the way that levels are themed in this game, because we're moving from one-dimensional terror to another. So we might be, out in the desert for a little while, surrounded by mutants and like a wasteland kind of setting. We might be in the jungle. We might be in a pirate level. We might be in a kind of a snowy level. It's a lot of the templates that we've seen across this genre dating back into the 80s. But this game is all done clearly with an homage to the past, but also trying to refine it and tune it and provide a serious amount of fun and challenge for modern players out there. And I suspect that a lot of people that will gravitate to Crash 4 clearly will be longtime fans of this franchise, but also people that may have kind of drifted away from video games and maybe have found them in this crazy year again and are starting to share them with their family. And there's even a mode in the game where you can pass the controller around and keep attempting it. The way that they set up Crash Bandicoot 4 is with a little bit of generosity, with an understanding that people are going to be dying a lot. So there's a modern mode and there's a retro mode. The retro mode is set up, you have a set amount of lives, you lose those lives, and you have to start that level over again. The checkpoints are spread out a little bit farther than you may hope for, especially through that first playthrough time. So you're going to repeat sections no matter which way you play. But the modern variation on the game style that you can play doesn't have a limitation on lives. So you basically have an unlimited amount of lives. And what you're trying to do is not only get to the end and bash through as many crates as you possibly can and take out as many bad guys as you possibly can, but you're trying to do it as effectively as possible and lose as few lives as possible. And that's easier said than done. But what I kind of really came to understand through the many hours that I spent screaming at my television and cursing everything under the sun after I died again and again, it's almost like the Dark Souls of platform action adventuring, this game. It's hard. And in places it's excruciatingly hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But what I really came to understand is the inventiveness of the designers to request of you to try the level again. And even when you beat a level, there is that, you want to replay that again? Because you're collecting gems. Some of them are hidden, which you can find in different areas on each of the different levels. And some are objective-based around how many crates you bash by the time you get to the end of a stage. And so you're trying to get as many of those gems as you can because you unlock all of the copious and generous amounts of skins that are in the game. Now, I haven't unlocked unlocked a whole bunch of them, I have to be honest. I've basically been like scrambling and fretting and stressing to get to the end so I can see more and more of this game. But the game does say, hey, you want to try that again? You did quite well. And what I kind of came to understand too as I played, because I played a bunch on the game station that I have over there, but I also have a game station here which I've set up for streaming. So I played a bunch from the beginning over there, and then I started streaming and I replayed some of the earlier levels in my stream, and it was easier. And I did have some of that muscle memory, and I was able to carry a bit of a conversation when I was interacting with people live until I got to some choke points, and then I had to clam up and just kind of focus. This is a game that demands a lot of attention from you. You can't be, and I tried this, trust me, you can't have, like a YouTube video going or checking Twitter and hit those precise jumps and figure out all of the timing. And you just can't. You have to focus. You got to think about what you're going to do. You have to kind of inch along and plan your jumps and pull them off, well. You have to kind of set a strategy for yourself if you're going to succeed in this game. And that might be a little bit off-putting because this is absolutely a tougher experience than, a lot of action platformers, a lot of sort of cutesy, cartoony type titles out there. That's always been a distinctive element of the Crash games, but I think this raises the stakes even a little bit higher. There are definitely interesting elements applied to kind of soften the blow a bit. One of them is the fact that you've got a bunch of different characters that you can play. You can start as Crash or Coco and play the entire game that way. You can play as Dr. Neo Cortex in some areas. You can play as Tana, who's got this grappling hook ability and also this kicking ability. And you can play as the explosive Dingle Dial in this game as well. But Crash Bandicoot or Coco also have the ability to pick up these quantum masks that give them some pretty insane abilities, like being able to slow down time, or you have the ability to turn into this whirling dervish that allows Crash or Coco to float a little while, kind of helicopter style. You also have the ability to instantly pull something out of the ether and activate a ghostly image and turn it into a solid platform or solid crate or something like that. And there's lots and lots of unlockables in there. And also there's lots of different embellishments to the levels themselves. Toys for Bob worked with Beanox, incredible collaborations across Activision Studios, and they've concocted a whole bunch of cool extra themes that you can replay levels with. So you can actually splash color into environments, which is amazing. You can have an underwater theme to some of these stages, so everything is obviously slowed down a little bit. There's an old-timey cinema look to things as well. And you can also pick up these flashback tapes, which kind of take you back to, the look and feel of 90s Crash as well. Now, of course, you're going to be chased by giant creatures and monsters that are going to force you to run into the screen. That's a staple in the Crash Bandicoot universe. There's going to be lots of little hidden surprises and things that you have to discover. There's rails that you can grind on, and it really reminded me of Ratchet and Clank, and the fact that Ratchet and Clank, the new one, is all about sort of zipping through dimensions. It's kind of surreal that we're also doing that with Crash here. But that's not a bad thing. I loved jumping on the rails and grinding and sliding underneath and using all of the abilities that Crash has. And I also really kind of found myself going back and forth from the D-pad if I needed absolute precision, because this is a game where the camera's kind of constantly shifting perspective on you, and you don't always get to see everything around you, so that's an extra element of the challenge. But there are some more wide open areas where it just felt more natural to be running around with the analog stick. So I was going back and forth there. And one thing I've always said about Crash Bandicoot games, you can go back and check out some of my old reviews, is that I've always wanted to explore stuff that was off angle, and there's been so much attention to detail and so much artistry put into these environments surrounding the line that you kind of have to traverse more than ever before. This is a game where I just want to get off the rails and go and explore everywhere. But of course, that's not kind of true to the Crash action platforming mythology. It would be fun, though. I do have to say this. It would be fun for Toys for Bob to kind of take the reins on more Crash and veer into Super Mario 3D territory and let us kind of explore a full 3D world that's crafted for us. But man, it's very hard to complain about anything in this game. It is overloaded with great content. It is a game that really touts itself as not being about microtransactions. Everything is unlockable and discoverable in the game itself. It's kind of an anomaly. We've really moved away from this style of game. We've had a couple couple of companies try to attempt this in the indie scene. I'm thinking of the Yooka-Laylee games. But this is a really, really tuned, big budget, 3D action-adventure platformer that ties together a lot of mechanics and a lot of the philosophies of game design from an era long gone, and does it with such elegance and with such pure joy and adoration. Even if this will make you incredibly angry while you play, you never lose the fact that you're playing something extraordinary. Especially for someone that's been doing this as long as I have. This is just a return to something so wonderful. And it's been a total blast for me to jump from the Mario 3D All-Stars collection to Tony Hawk's Pro Skaters, Star Wars Squadrons, and now I'm playing Crash Bandicoot 4. This game is freaking wonderful. I'm going to give Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time, and boy, you can say that again, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.